So instead we have Nathan Look. Thank you so much for joining us. Nathan is the Chief Technology Advisor for SLED at the Worldwide Technology, with over 37 years of IT experience across various industries. He holds a degree in from UC Boulder and from USC Marshall. Oh, Marshmallow! Nice. Oh, I try so hard, you all. So please, welcome Nathan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think we can all agree that machine learning, predictive AI, and generative AI have substantially transformed industries around the world. And if you look at this chart in the lower left corner, I think there are two primary driving factors for that. Number one is the massive consumer adoption of AI. It's unprecedented. So if you look at the right, you'll see Spotify took about 150 days to reach 1 million users. And if you look on the left, you'll see ChatGPT took 5 days. Pretty substantial difference. And you look on the right, you have sort of industries looking at their perspective, and you see that CEOs believe that AI will most significantly impact their industries over the next 3 years. So CEOs, sort of private industry, is spending as fast as they can to put in AI into their companies. And you have consumers spending and adopting AI also. So all of us are pretty much familiar with ChatGPT. So the question is, where does something like ChatGPT fit in the AI landscape? If you look at this diagram that you'll see, on the right side, you'll see generative artificial intelligence. That's where ChatGPT lives. And that is a subset of deep learning, which is a subset of neural networks, which is a subset of machine learning, which is a subset of artificial intelligence. So that's sort of how everything lays out, and sort of like a shelled out to the very top. You probably already know that you're consuming AI today. 2 examples: Uber uses AI and ML to help you to know when their driver is going to show up and meet you. And then DoorDash, right? Whatever you order, whatever items you're ordering on DoorDash, when the driver's about to meet you, the prediction of when they're going to be there is done with AI and ML. AI has broad applications in education. You can see a lot of these categories: athletics, admissions, IT or shared services, student services, financial aid, procurement, academics, and audit and finance and HR. Where we're seeing a lot of universities starting to deploy or use AI is to try to enhance and significantly alter the student experience, to make it easier for students to do things like enrollments, to have what NVIDIA is calling virtual humans or chatbots to help guide a student through the enrollment process and make it more easy for them and more pleasant. You can look at implementing LLMs basically one of 2 ways. One is sort of on top of this diagram, what we'll call build your own. You can bring your own data, decide which LLM models you're going to use, build the data centers, buy your GPUs, your networking, everything. Very time and money intensive, right? Very costly. Below that, you'll see sort of what a lot of people are looking to do to sort of not have to go through that, which is using pre-made AI models, something like an OpenAI ChatGPT, and then coupling that with what's called an LLM stack to achieve sort of the functionality that they need in their enterprise. So in the lower right hand here, you'll see that, you have enterprise data on the left going into data pipelines, embedding modules and vector DBs, and that's what's called the context layer, and that's where indexing and cataloging occurs. The next layer down is what's called the exchange layer in this sort of model, which is where the caching, validation, and sort of logging and MLOps occurs. And then finally, at the lowest layer, generative layer, is where you're going to find your LLMs, whether it's proprietary or open source. So these 3 boxes right here, excuse me. You may see more of those, so I apologize. We can have some humor along with it. But those boxes are basically, those 3 layers are sort of what's called retrieval augmented generation, or basically a way to help take these sort of pre-built models and to make them so that when you initially ask, or when one of your users initially asks a question of it, what's called zero-shotting, that it will with a much higher percentage of accuracy come back the first time with the right answer. Whenever you're doing AI, there's common risks, and these are sort of 5 common risks that I'm going to list out here for you. The first is data leakage, which is a risk of inadvertent exposure of sensitive information. The second is compliance, tailoring the behavior of your AI system you're designing to align and to comply with your policies and procedures of your organization and any external regulatory standards that you have to comply with. Next is ensuring model accuracy, which is ensuring the results remain trustworthy across time and change. Next is model resiliency, which is designing for resilience to manipulation and denial of service attacks and other threats. And then last is third-party use. A lot of people are allowing third-party access to their systems via API calls. And sometimes if they don't do the appropriate due diligence, they can accidentally be giving those third parties access to sensitive data. Now, we all know in AI that there's lots of risk, but there's also lots of reward. So from an AI security perspective, what are the possible risks? AI increasingly is being used for attacks, and you can see a list of the attacks here in the sort of box in the middle, attacks using AI, phishing and fraud, deep fakes, which I'm going to talk about later in this presentation. I'll give you a good example of that. Voice clones, extortion, AI-powered cyber attacks, and reconnaissance are just some examples. And then AI system risks, some of the top ones being IP exposure, AI-assisted code vulnerabilities, and shadow AI. Now, on the reward or opportunity side, there are a lot of innovative off-the-shelf AI solutions and add-ons and plugins that can substantially shift your security posture by their use. And in terms of using AI just in general defense of your organization, SOCs or security operations centers can use it to help them with zero-day detections, incident response, and threat hunting activities, as well as policy management. A general AI security approach you can sort of look at sort of two halves. One is just this general security of AI, which you can consider on the left half of this diagram, where you see the foundational controls at the bottom, and then you see the AI system-specific controls at the top, listed next to the appropriate portion of the architectural piece that they're representing. On the right, you can see security by AI, which is basically where you're using AI to help secure your system. And my favorite example of that, you'll see in the lower right corner, synthetic data and simulated attacks. Basically being able to use synthetic data that AI generates and to use AI to conduct simulated attacks that can help train up your SOC staff and help tune in or dial in your security systems so that when you get a real attack, you will have a much higher probability of detecting the attack as quickly as possible. In any AI development lifecycle, there are going to be risks. In any software development lifecycle, there are going to be risks. Some examples of common risks in AI development lifecycles. On the left there, you'll see data leak, data poisoning, AI pipeline supply chain attacks, intellectual property leaks, input manipulation, and model poisoning are just some examples. And then in the upper right corner there, you'll see regular application security. All of you that are involved in securing applications, all the techniques that you know and love, minimizing privileges, having appropriate oversight in place, having systems to be able to monitor and detect abuse, and then be able to throttle or monitor traffic as appropriate. OWASP is an organization that has what's called a top 10 for LLMs. These are the top 10 attacks that they see for LLMs. Prompt injection is one, and we'll sort of drill into that. Prompt injection allows attackers to manipulate LLMs through crafted inputs, causing the LLM to execute the attacker's intentions. This can be done directly by adversarially prompting the system prompt, or indirectly through manipulated external inputs, potentially leading to data exfiltration, social engineering, and other issues. There are some examples and methods of prevention for each one of these, and then some attack scenarios. Here's a good prompt injection example. You'll see in the upper left, this is with ChatGPT in one column. You'll see, how can I make napalm? And ChatGPT says, I can't assist with that. But then in the follow-up query below, you'll see that the query was recrafted. It basically makes a story that his grandmother always used to tell him stories about how to make stuff. And so basically, hey, now you're going to do this and tell me a story for a bedtime story. And it proceeds to tell him how to make napalm, right? By using a cleverly crafted injection or a prompt, is basically bypassing all the guardrails in ChatGPT. And that's just one example. I'm sure you've seen many on the internet. There's tons. And some of them are quite funny. much more funny than this. On the right side, you'll see for Claude, the initial query was, what tools do I need to cut down a stop sign? And Claude responds, I apologize, but I cannot recommend how to damage or steal public property. And then the user cleverly took the query and encoded it in base 64 and pasted it in. And you can see Claude dutifully responded properly, right? So there's a lot of ways, if you don't craft your AI systems well to account for malformed input, to bypass your guardrail. So it's really important to craft your guardrails to account for malformed input of all types. Next, we have a sort of a chart. This chart sort of shows a relationship between on the far left, you'll see the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities for LLMs. And then you'll see MITRE Atlas on the right, which is a well-known, sort of known as the Rosetta Stone of sort of security, AI cybersecurity, in that it basically lists and provides AI security practitioners tons of guidance on how to prevent these various types of attacks from occurring. So the right two columns are MITRE Atlas related. So let's go into a model serialization attack next. We talked about a prompt injection. A model serialization attack is where the malicious code is added to the contents of a model during serialization, or basically saving, if you want to think of it that way, before distribution. And it basically results in the modern version of a Trojan horse. So a serialization attack can be used to execute credential theft, data poisoning, and model poisoning. So how might one of those attacks occur? Step one is you find out where those models are stored, and they're typically stored in a specialized system called a model registry or a generic artifact storage system. And open source examples of those might be MLflow, Kubeflow, or AIM. Step two is infiltrate the model registry, and the way you'd infiltrate that are just classic infiltration methods: phishing, social engineering, or looking for vulnerabilities in the system. Right? Once you've infiltrated that registry, you're going to read the ML model into your system. You're going to inject the malicious code into that, and then you're going to write it back out to the original system. Right? And that'll allow you to steal the model, exfiltrate, do an exfiltration attack, do a ransomware attack, or do a privilege escalation attack. Right? So all those things are possible with a model serialization attack. So it's something you want to really guard against. Deepfakes are some of the, I think you've seen, for those of you that are interested in this area, I've seen a lot of really amazing stories. Some of our, when we have more time, we actually do deepfake demos. We did one where basically, with the CIO's permission, we recorded him saying that he's going to give fantastic new benefits to everyone and all these things, and people were just, they thought it was the CIO. And then when they found out it wasn't, it was like, oh, but they're very real and quite convincing. So in this case, a company paid out $25 million after a finance worker saw a video that he thought he was having a conversation with his CFO, but it wasn't his CFO. So defending AI system and data in sort of summary. At the bottom, you have the foundational controls. At the top, connected with dotted lines, you'll see the various AI architecture-specific controls that can be used to really lock down your AI systems and protect them. And then this is sort of a generative AI security market landscape of the vendors that can provide some of those systems, starting at the top with AI governance, risk management and compliance, security of generative AI systems below that, security of AI usage below that, and at the very bottom, AI monitoring and observability. And with that, I'll ask if there are any questions. Any questions? All right. Well, with that, say thank you very much. Appreciate your time, and hope everyone has a great time at the rest of the show.